Tell you what, let's hear some more of Dennis Brown. A little more, a little more, a little more. Come on, come on. Yeah, play the music now. Yeah, 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 yeah. The new style of motivation for 2023. For those who can watch on Irie Jam 360, you'll see the movements of Miguel Melbourne. We welcome you back to the Fact of the Matter Irie Jam Smear Talk on a Sunday evening. My name is Irwine Clare. It's that time of evening when we link with Mr. Miguel Melbourne for some motivation chat, you know. And we haven't spoken to him since 2022. Miguel.
Irwin, it's been a whole year, Irwin, an entire year. Isn't that true?
Yeah,
20.
and you still wait, and you still haven't grown hair.
No, Irwin, that time is over.
Welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. Good to see you and hear you.
You know, I'm excited to hear the music. I'm excited to be back into this vibe, dancing, flowing, having these conversations. So, of course, hello, good evening to you, Irwin, and good evening to our distinguished listeners wherever in the world you're tuning in from. We thank you. I am Miguel Anthony Melbourne. Of course, it's a new year, right? And so on this week of Melbourne Motivation, I just wanted to take the time to say hello to all of our listeners that's been tuned in for 2 years. We're going on 3 years. Irwin, 3 years?
Indeed. Significant work. When when you're doing great things and impacting change on society, you know, time has a way to just go by.
I'm telling you, it's
especially when you're having fun doing it and you believe in what you're doing.
Absolutely believe in it. And, you know, the folks that have tuned in from all over, you know, the feedback, I have folks reaching out and saying, hey, Miguel, here's a person that I think might be a great guest on the show. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. And so to look up and say this year makes 3 years, it's unbelievable. And so what I wanted to do really was just to take this time and to say, for anyone that might be new to the segment, if over the last 2.5 going on 3 years, this will be your first year tuning in, I just want to let you know what Melbourne Motivation is all about. And essentially, Melbourne Motivation is all about highlighting some of the finest young leaders of Caribbean heritage, right? And so the vision and mission of Melbourne Motivation is to build a Caribbean cultural confidence by elevating the voice of a younger generation of leaders with Caribbean heritage doing amazing work in their fields, in their community, and by amplifying their stories and their leadership initiatives. The goal is for us, the broader diaspora, to have confidence in what this generation is doing and to know how to support what they are doing. That's the mission. That is the reason I am going to work very hard to bring you some brilliant young leaders.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. When you look at the landscape and you look at the avenues in which young people are making waves, which is just about everything. What are some of the areas, though, you look at for 2023, some of the areas that stands out the most, where you see young people making significant impact, Miguel?
You know, it's a great question, Irwin. When I look back at the number of guests, I think we're going on 78 guests, different countries represented, different industries. What has surprised me is the variety. And to see that these young folks are doing things based on their own passion, based on their own creativity, but also in the upper echelon of companies that we think they're not doing. We're seeing scientists, we're seeing great educators, we're seeing so much. But I think what I have seen is there is actually a balance that needs to be struck, Irwin, and that is this new generation, they are really good with technology and they know how to speak that language where Web3, crypto, just the need for digital advancement in education. They're speaking that language that, you know what, perhaps the more mature or older generation, they need that insight. And then again, the younger generation, that they have the bright ambition, they have the courage, but you know what? The wisdom that the older generation have is what they need, so that now we're making the impact sustainable. And so is a balance.
Yeah, and you know, and as we look at these technological forays, one of the areas that that is of concern to an older person like me, is whether or not we're losing out on socialization. And I say socialization the way I know it, right? And at the same token, within socialization, the importance of the community. So in other words, I see a lot of suspected narcissism, because that can push its ugly head into the whole aspect of quote unquote progress. So how do we get how do people like myself and yourself impart that on young people to integrate that as part of their messaging?
Well, Irwin, you're spot on. It is true. I think if we look back to 2010 and years prior, when technology was really emerging, social media was just emerging, and the older generation, the more mature folks, the folks with more wisdom said, what's going to be the side effects? And the question was just asked, but not really much was put in place to address the side effects. And so it is true that we are living out some of the side effects. But the other side of it is true that what used to take, in the past used to take, let's say 2 months to send a letter. Sometimes a person sent a letter and it would take a year because it's being delivered by, let's say horse and carriage. Nowadays, everything is so fast. A text message gets the communication across. And so I think to combat, some of what might not be the best for society is for that conversation between the younger generation and the older generation, to the wisdom to be for the younger generation that move quick and fast, but don't rush, don't hurry. Don't rush, don't hurry. And so now the older generation can really let them have a conversation to say, what are you rushing and hurrying to? Right? And to impart that younger wisdom. And so now it's just for the younger generation to not lose sight of things like ethics,
yes,
morals,
yes,
the stuff that really matters, like family, valuable friendships. And so how do we put those conversations into the ambition that they're having to want it right now, because it appears that they don't have to wait.
Great.
Right.
So in the immediacy for next week, what can we expect?
Absolutely. So I want to sort of give folks, here's 4 ways in how you participate in helping to build Melbourne motivation in this segment and what it's really meant to do. 1 is just to tune in each Sunday, 9:30 p.m. We're going to bring the vibes. We're going to bring the energy. 2, you can subscribe to the YouTube. Follow the Melbourne Motivation on Instagram, on Facebook. I want you to be on the lookout for melbournemotivation.com. That's one of my big goals for this year. I want to build that out. And so here's something else. This one is very important. I want you to recommend a future guest. So it's not just to connect and follow, across all the countries, some amazing young Caribbeans doing things. Let's highlight them. Let's big them up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so Irwin, there's some countries that I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to folks yet. Place like Dominica, Suriname, the Cayman Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, Martinique, Grenada. I don't think I spoke to anyone yet, Irwin. And so for all our listeners,
lots of work to be done.
Lots of work in 2023, Irwin. And so that's a part of the reason that I want you to connect and reach out. And then the last part, this one is really important. As we elevate the voices and stories of these young folks, and you hear about their businesses, you hear about their missions, you hear about their needs, right? You hear that they're really trying and they just need the support. Go ahead and support the guests, support their businesses, support their organization. And so next week, just to give a sense, we're in this place now. It's a new year. We're all thinking about change. The word we use for change, making a change, is resolution. We make these resolutions. We have these goals. So next week, we're going to speak to a young lady that, a few years ago, she made a New Year's resolution. And Irwin, she stuck to it. And it's been awesome. Successful. And she's built a business. And now we can all benefit from that business. It might not sound extraordinary, but the statistics said only 9% of people actually stick to that resolution, Irwin. And so what she has done is extraordinary. So
she not only stuck to it, but she has been successful at it. And that's
right.
Awesome.
It's been inspirational. So the goal is, I want everyone listening, feel free to build your New Year's resolution. And I'm going to go out here and find these young folks that are doing amazing things. And what they do might be the thing that helps you to see your resolution through. So that's just something that folks have to look forward to.
All right. Well, listen, how do we maintain contact with you? throughout, Miguel, and to follow the wonderful work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, my personal and professional goals are to help the youth be best prepared for college, career, and beyond. Visit pathwaytopurposenyc.com. You can also visit mycollegepod.com to gain access to some of the amazing innovations that we're putting forth in education. So follow Melbourne Motivation, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube. But until next week, please be safe and please live with big energy. Irwine, next week.
Indeed, and brushing up on your reggae movements there, yeah.
I'm trying, Irwine.
I want to see that. You got young people. So you got to come with young people movements, right? Those movements you're making are my movements, them that.
All right. New resolution. I have 2 resolutions now, Irwine.
Take care, Miguel. All the best. It's great talking to you always, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Sure, Miguel Melbourne.